Once upon a time, there lived a surgeon named Lemuel Gulliver, a man with a thirst for adventure that the quiet life of a doctor could never quench. He longed for the vast open sea and the unknown lands beyond the horizon. One day, setting sail on a ship called the Antelope, his dream finally came true. But the sea is a fickle master. A violent storm, a monstrous tempest, descended upon them without warning. The ship was tossed about like a toy, its masts cracking, its hull groaning under the strain. In the chaos, the Antelope was torn apart, and Gulliver was thrown into the raging, churning ocean. He swam for his life, pushed on by sheer will, until he could swim no more. Exhausted, he felt his feet touch sand. He had washed ashore on an unknown island. He collapsed, surrendering to a deep, heavy sleep. When Gulliver awoke, the sun was high in the sky. He tried to get up, but found he couldn't move. His arms, his legs, even his long hair were tied to the ground with countless tiny threads. He was a prisoner. Suddenly, he felt something move on his leg. He looked down and saw a tiny man, no more than 6 inches tall, marching up his body, followed by dozens more, all armed with miniature bows and arrows. Gulliver let out a roar of surprise, and the tiny men, terrified, scattered in every direction. He learned he was in a land called Lilliput, and its inhabitants were the Lilliputians. Despite their size, they were a proud and organized people. Gulliver, the Man Mountain as they called him, was a marvel and a puzzle. Seeing he meant them no harm, they brought him food and drink, entire herds of tiny cattle and barrels of wine no bigger than thimbles. It was a feast, but barely enough to satisfy his giant appetite. The Lilliputians were clever engineers. They built a massive cart to transport Gulliver to their capital city, pulled by 1,500 of their strongest horses. The journey was a spectacle for the entire kingdom. He was housed in an abandoned ancient temple, the only building large enough to hold him. The Emperor of Lilliput himself came to visit. He was a majestic figure, even in his small size, and he and Gulliver slowly began to understand one another. Gulliver had to be careful not to crush anyone, and the Lilliputians had to overcome their fear of the giant in their midst. He learned their customs, their politics, and even their bizarre conflicts. Like the war with their rival island Blefuscu, which started over which end of an egg to crack. It seemed absurd to Gulliver, but to them it was a matter of national honor. Gulliver became a valuable asset to Lilliput. One day, the fleet of Blefuscu prepared to invade. Gulliver, wanting to help his new friends, waded into the channel between the two islands. He took a long rope, hooked it onto the enemy warships, and single-handedly pulled their entire fleet across the water to Lilliput. The Blefuscudians were stunned, and the Lilliputians hailed Gulliver as a national hero, but his fame was short-lived. The Emperor wanted him to destroy Blefuscu completely, to make it a province of Lilliput. Gulliver refused. He believed in peace, not conquest. This refusal planted a seed of suspicion in the Emperor's mind. Some of the court ministers, jealous of Gulliver's favor, began to plot against him. They accused him of treason and secretly sentenced him to be blinded. Learning of the plot from a loyal friend, Gulliver knew he had to escape. Under the cover of darkness, he made his way to the coast of Blefuscu, where he had been treated with kindness after the naval incident. There, he was relieved to find a normal-sized boat washed ashore from some other shipwreck. It was his ticket home. After repairing it, he bid farewell to the tiny lands of Lilliput and Blefuscu and set sail once more onto the open ocean. He was eventually picked up by a passing English ship. Back home, no one believed his incredible tales of tiny people and their miniature world. But Gulliver knew what he had seen, and though he was home, his heart still yearned for the horizon. His journey was far from over, and the world was much larger and stranger than he had ever imagined. The sea was calling his name again, promising new adventures and even more astonishing discoveries.